We're going to be looking at figure P2-11, which is going to use polygons and a circular pattern. So we have a 12-sided figure. Most commonly, it's going to be the hex that we go to making things like bolts and hex head for fasteners. So let's go with a new. Our part is in millimeters. Get going on the metric. Front plane, everything is centered at the origin. So we could draw all of these lines individually. We could do the rectangle, but we're going to explore the polygon. So let's move this just a little bit that way. Let's see if I can find my bolt circle. Oh, 180 across the flat. So this is going to be an inscribed circle. So inscribed circle, interior, circumscribed on the circumference would be to the outside. So I need 12. And a polygon is going to be 3 or more, as much as your video card and processor can handle. But at some point it just becomes a circle. So and we want to give it the 12 sides. We'll rough position it and then accept. All right, so one of the things that we'll need is a relationship that orients this part. So we're going to pick one of our line segments and make that horizontal. Now I can put the dimension on it, and that's the same as we're going to come to the command manager and do smart dimension, or I'm going to right click on the context menu and do smart dimension. Then picking between the flats would be one option. Escape out of that. The other option is to go to that construction circle and put a diameter on it. So whichever one works, and depending on where you place or get it extension line at, then we'll put the 180 on it. Okay, I'm just going to right click and go back to select. And don't really need to, but let's look at the square. We have all of our rectangle styles. I could do a center rectangle, probably preferred, but let's see what it looks like as a polygon. So kind of strange having the circle. The center rectangle, though, would have the construction lines at the center, and that will give us our size. So let's do the more common center rectangle. And when I pick the center, it's going to come out. That's going across the corners. And corners I prefer. The midpoints occasionally have issues, or maybe have more issues in working with these. If I switch to midpoints, then the difference is going to be just it is getting oriented by those vertical and horizontal instead of diagonal lines. All right, so a select control select, I can get out of that. Just clicking out in the work area to clear my selections. Going to select, hold down the control button, select, and set to equal. So since this is given a 40 square, then we can set our geometry. And last will be the circle. And I still like the base circle as a strategy, but let's take a look at some of the other options in the circular pattern. So I went into the dimension. Let's do that again. Right, so right click, and that one just went a little bit off the screen. So I'm in the regions, so I get a different selection set. So one of the things to watch out for is that where you select makes a difference on some of these uh, results on the context menu. So go to a smart dimension, put in the 20, hit enter, And then I'm going to go to the origin. I'm going to probably stay away from the center lines at this point. I could make the point in the center line coincident. I think I would prefer the origin and the center point to be horizontal at this point. All right, so selecting the circle. I like to pre-select. So if you don't pre-select, I'll show you where that's at. We're going to go into the circular pattern. My screen resolution is a little small, so we can fit all of this in here for the property manager. So if we scroll down, entities to pattern is the arc. If I wanted to add more to the pattern, then I could by selecting in the box, making sure it's highlighted, and then grabbing other objects. If we didn't have the polygon, we would draw the line through a circular pattern 12 times and have to do a little bit more involved to create our 12-sided piece. So we want equal spacing, 360 degrees. We dimension the radius, and then if I dimension the angular spacing, the equal spacing is going to turn off. So we have to do the math of saying 8 into 360. So I'm going to stay with the equal spacing and go with 8. If I put in the radius, so we have the dimension of the radius, and the bolt circle was 120. So I need to do half of that. We're going to go 60. Now this is one of the only times you will see me put a value into a parameter, is that it's going to actually return a dimension, and then I'm not going to have to chase it. All right. The pattern is pretty good. All right, so since the center line, and I got to watch what I'm inferring here. Since the center line came off that pattern, it didn't go directly to the origin. So I'm going to grab that endpoint and left click, hold down, and drag back to the origin. And once it goes coincident, then it's going to go fully defined. All right, we're going to extrude that out, the 6 millimeters. We'll save this, and then this becomes part of our file management. And somewhere my shadows got turned on, so I don't have real view graphics, but again, the recommendation on this computer, I don't have real view graphics, but my recommendation is that you come up to the display and you turn off the shadows, you turn off the real view graphics. I always call those disco. It's nice, it's pretty. If you need those shapes, then great. But for the most part, after doing design for a number of hours, it becomes annoying. Well, at least to me. One thing about these parts, if we're going to stamp this, and this is still a pretty good sized part if these are inch and a quarter. So if we were going to stamp this, machine it, mainly the machine portion of it is going to require radius. So I'm going to add a few things. These are purely optional. So one thing to point out is that we pick a corner. I got a little too much there. I got the face. And, you know, the most generous radius that we can put in there is the way to go. So maybe I'll put a 4 millimeter radius in there so that I can use a 1/4 inch tool. And then if we go in and add that one and wait just a second, don't move the mouse, we're going to get this context that says, oh, I want all of the interior corners or connected to the start loop. I want all of the connected to the start face, the verticals, and then everything, and then everything. All right, so if I were to do that, that's just going to soften the edges, and on the outside that's not very big. Most of the time I would, since we're going to have to deburr or make those not as sharp, if it's going to be handled, You don't want to leave razor blades on your parts, and when our round tool comes in and cuts out these corners, it will have a little bit of a radius to go with. So let's save this. This will be part of our file management. I get back to my folder. So if you're in Documents or created a location, we'll go up one so that, oh, I was in the right place, A1. And from the Save As, I can create a new folder just like we were in the Windows Explorer. And this is going to be my Assignment 2 folder. Right, and then I think we were doing P2-11. I'll throw my initials on the end of it so I can keep track of it. And just off of my view window is the save. All right, we can close that out, and we're ready for the next part.